Whoa, it is Bring It In. Happy Friday, everyone. Coach Thorpe, how are you, sir?
Fantastic, my man. How are you?
I am good. Before we start, shouts to the ladies that were drafted last night in the WNBA, realizing their dreams. Draft night, always a special night for, it's something that very few people in the world know what that experience is like. So kudos to all those women who were able to realize their dreams.
I have a question about it before we begin. I don't follow anything pretty much with the NBA, so I know very little. But I watched. I want to say it was Arizona in the tournament, and they had a little lefty guard that, if she was a little bit bigger, might be an NBA player. Like, was she drafted?
I don't recall because they have more rounds than the NBA draft.
Oh, really?
I think they go.
That girl had to have been a top 3 pick, top 4 pick, because I'm telling you, I thought to myself, just 4 inches tall, because she was little. She could be like Chris Chiozza. She was incredible. What an amazing player, I guarantee you. I mean, maybe she wasn't a senior, so do they? I guess they can always leave early too.
You have to be 3 years removed. So like Charlie Collier, who's the #1 pick, she's a junior at Texas and left. So you can be 3 years post.
Devin's gonna help us here. Devin, someone's gonna find the list, because I think didn't the little lefty from Arizona lost in the finals to Stanford, right? In the last second.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Arizona's best player, I just couldn't take my eyes off her. Just a whirling dervish of talent and skill and shot making. Yeah, they weren't so good. She was so good. So I'll watch her. I'm gonna start watching WNBA this summer. I kind of committed to myself that I'm gonna get away from the NBA some when our season's done. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch a little baseball.
Well, it works out well because they're in the off season. So
yeah, right, exactly. It's perfect.
So it works. And the other thing too is, and I know the WNBA has been talking about this based on how prolific the freshmen in college were this season, making the rules similar to the NBA. If freshmen can go out of the NBA out of college to the NBA, why can't they do the same with the WNBA? And
yeah.
And no need to stop. If someone's pro ready, let them go play ball.
Well, I would flip that. If a pro team is ready to draft them, let them go play ball. I don't care if they can help a team or not. Right? That makes sense. Major corporations hire brilliant engineers on the tech side, and they're not ready quite yet, but they bring them along. The NBA does the same thing. So, in my opinion, these girls are old enough they're 18 years old. If they want to be pros and someone's willing to pay them, they want to go.
Love it. Yeah. All right, before we kick it off with Let's Play Jazz, let us watch this week's TrueHoopTV video. It's about Jrue Holiday.
All right.
The Milwaukee Bucks signed Jrue Holiday to a 4-year contract extension worth up to $160 million. That's a lot of money. But is it too much money? The commentary on social media suggests many people think $34 to $35 million a year is a lot to pay for a one-time All-Star and career 16-point-per-game scorer. I can hear some of the arguments now. Come on, Jarod. His defense can't be that good. Here's the thing. His defense and his offense are that good. Here at TrueHoop, we like to use dunks and threes, estimated plus minus. I know.
Judy's gonna start it over because so much of it is you want to see the charts and the comparison between Jrue and other players that are around him in estimated plus minus. Because there was a lot of talk on social about, whoa, 4 years almost, that's a lot of money for Jrue Holiday. And it's like, but it actually isn't. It's in line. It's right in line, actually.
Yeah, he's an amazing player. There we go.
The Milwaukee Bucks signed Jrue Holiday to a 4-year contract extension worth up to $160 million. That's a lot of money. But is it too much money? The commentary on social media suggests many people think $34 to $35 million a year is a lot to pay for a one-time All-Star and career 16-point-per-game scorer. I can hear some of the arguments. Come on, Jarod. His defense can't be that good. Here's the thing. His defense and his offense are that good. Here at TrueHoop, we like to use dunks and threes, estimated plus minus. I know, another stat. But it's very useful. It looks at how a player impacts his team's performance on offense and defense, taking into account who the opponents are and who the player's teammates are. This season, Jrue Holiday has a plus 3.9 estimated plus minus. That's better than 96% of players in the NBA. On offense, he's a plus 2.1, and on defense, he's a plus 1.8. Outstanding marks. The 6 other players all ranked near Holiday in estimated plus minus, separated by tenths of a point, are James Harden, Damian Lillard, Fred VanVleet, Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, and Bam Adebayo. Wait a minute, Jarod. Are you saying Jrue Holiday is as good as James Harden or Damian Lillard? No, of course not. But I am saying what he's doing for the Bucks is just as important to winning as what those players do for their teams. Over the past 5 seasons, Jrue Holiday's estimated plus-minus is ahead of players like Bradley Beal and Chris Middleton, and just behind Kyrie Irving, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook. The trouble is, our eyes see and brains compute this much easier than we do this. Buzzer beaters and plays that make us jump out of our seats and flock to Twitter for a reaction are amazing. It's partly why we watch the games. But the stuff that isn't so easy to quantify is just as important to winning.
Shouts to our guy, Jrue Holiday, for securing the bag. He's a hell of a player. Again, and Coach, I know you know this. And one of the things I learned well before I knew you from hearing you on pods and stuff was this idea of when you watch basketball, try not to watch the ball, which, by the way, is really hard to do. But you see Jrue's impact on both sides of the ball, sometimes so much what he does away from the ball. And again, that's much harder for our brains to process than a step back 3 for a game winner and all the fun things that make us go, oh my God, that was amazing. But Jrue Holiday, what he does and what he provides for winning, just as valuable as the players that I mentioned.
So real quick, I had him in a draft. He trained with me for the pre-draft. And I thought I trained Justin too, like a year or 2 later, whatever. And Jrue, of course, had a mild rookie season as an 18-year-old, basically youngest kid in the draft. He only averaged 8 points a game coming out of UCLA and was drafted 16th overall. And that pretty much never happened before. He was a national player a year ago coming out of high school, so he was a good player. So anyway, the next year we're at Summer League, and I had never met his father before. And so after the game, I'm walking out of it was in Orlando for Summer League. I'm walking out of the gym, and Jrue was there with his dad. And Drew's like, Coach Thorpe, come meet my dad. So I shake his hand. He's like, thank you so much for what you did last year. It was a year ago. I trained him. And Mr. Holiday said, can you give Jrue any encouragement after his game day? He had like 6 points. I said, sure. I said, Jrue, quit fucking around. He's like, what do you mean? I said, dude, you could score 30 games if you wanted to. You're so much better than these guys. Why do you still think you have to be game manager? You're not a rookie anymore. Go do it. I swear to you, you can look it up. Next game, Summer League, 30 points. But my point is, he's a very selfless guy. He is one of those classic lead guards that could do more, but just wants to win and isn't always engaged to do more for himself. I thought your video said it great. Like that dude, Milwaukee, I think, has every chance to win a championship this year. I didn't think that last year or the year before. I think Jrue is a big difference maker for them. And as you said, on both sides, he plays defense too. He's a big dude, by the way. Even when he was 19, big point guard. I loved him.
Extremely strong. And we'll get to the Bucks later when we talk about our championship bust. But it's time for some jazz. So, Coach, let's kick it off.
All right, so our boy Trey posted something great the other day. It was Luka just taking Ja Morant to school and crossover through the legs again, hezzy step back, bully ball into a one-legged Dirk 16-footer, and Ja Morant like, woo, boy. And I just love this, Jarod. I've been lucky enough to coach some really talented players back in high school. Some of them of which travel with me in the summertime to play the best competition out there. But all of his teammates were city kids from the projects of St. Pete. Many of them had never left their little area and thought if you weren't a black kid from that area, you couldn't play. And my studs who had been around, they didn't care what you looked like. Ball is ball, game is game. And it was, I never had to tell my players we're playing an all-white team, anything. I let my stars do that. And the fact that Ja Morant's been around, he knows what talent is. And I guarantee you, Luka has every bit of respect for Ja, as Ja does for him. And I said this 2 months ago, or 8 weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago on Twitter, but those guys have been playing for championships. Because as great as Luka is, Ja is amazing. So get used to that right there. We're going to see a lot of that in the next 10 years. Those two cats are incredible.
As anybody who plays ball know, game recognized game. So I'm going to take a quick transition away from basketball and talk about the Amazon unionization that I've been talking about for the past several months here. it did not go in the way that we wanted to go. The union was not formed in Bessemer, Alabama. And the title of this Jacobin article is so interesting. Amazon waged a brutal anti-union campaign. Unsurprisingly, they won. And of course, it's tongue in cheek because Amazon is literally good at everything. Like, why would you not think the company that understands logistics and shipping better than literally anybody else and warehousing? And by the way, an entity that also produces top flight content, which Amazon Studios does, of course, they can figure out how to run an anti-union campaign and make it work brilliantly. And it did. They pumped so much money into this campaign. And it really, unfortunately, it damaged the effects of the union efforts down in Alabama. And, you know, Amazon is at the point now where they are literally too big to lose at anything. I mean, they're soon going to be they are the number one employer in the world. They are, and Jeff Bezos is the richest human being of all time, like ever in the history of counting wealth. And their influence and their sway is so dangerous. I read a study where behind the United States military, which was number one, Amazon is the second most respected brand in the United States. And that's frightening because, the U.S. military, I don't trust them. And Amazon, like that's, and look, and we're all guilty of this. I mean, I buy crap off Amazon all the time, right? And we all do it. You've got Alexa in your house or whatever. We're all part of this game. And it's just really unfortunate that those workers in Alabama were not able to unionize and get what it is they need to make sure they have bargaining rights when they go to the table with Amazon.
Is the third name on that list the Jordan brand? You got to respect him. You may not like him, but you can't not respect him, what that man did on the court.
Shouts to Jordan Brand.
Right. All right. So we just published, I believe, an article we put out about the Knicks. Yes, a positive article. And ironically, it's called The Knicks and the Power of Love. Tom Thibodeau is their head coach. You would not think of the word love, and I have very familial different phrases and words in this article, but quite frankly, I used to always say it's a coach's league, and I'm wrong. I should have always said it's a coach's league too, because for sure LeBron James, who has been who went to what 9 straight finals, like it didn't matter who coached that team, but there's almost no other LeBron James ever, right? Who the coaches matters. Monty Williams is doing in Phoenix what very, very few coaches, I think, could have done in Phoenix. Doc Rivers is showing something in Philadelphia. It's not just they got Seth Curry. Come on. There is a coaching aspect to that. I think what Coach Thibodeau is doing in New York is making a difference. Are they going to win a championship? Hell no. But is this the beginning of where I think we can see a nice 10-year run? Absolutely. And it starts with management and ownership, allowing the management to do what they do. Who knows what's going to happen there? But RJ Barrett is a hugely improving player. I'm doing Zach Lowe's show next week to talk about this kind of stuff. Most improved. RJ Barrett's going to be on that list because he's suddenly been a hell of a shooter, which is what I write about. So hopefully everyone enjoys it. And then Henry's got a great little addition. Again, kind of talking about the same thing in the culture of New York, what it's doing for Emmanuel quickly. The Knicks are on the trend up. It's going to be a while, but it's a positive story. It's nice. It's a nice change. It's good for the league, I think.
Absolutely. And folks, obviously not just to trumpet us because we're on TrueHoop, but definitely read those articles out right now. And it'll dovetail sort of nicely into next week's TrueHoopTV video. It's just hard to build winning teams. It's not just, all right, I got to get, yes, you need superstar players. That's just to start with. But so many other things have to go. It's like making gumbo or chili or any kind of, bouillabaisse or whatever. It's a thing. All the ingredients got to mesh and work well together. And you got to make sure it's, cooked just right. So sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I want to talk about rest and everyone freaking out over Wednesday's Nets 76ers game. And how did Kevin Durant play Tuesday night versus the Timberwolves, but he didn't play Wednesday against the Sixers and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And everybody's losing because these guys are resting too much. As you know, on TrueHoop, we are proponents of rest, and we believe the NBA season is way too long. Baxter Holmes did a great article on ESPN about NBA personnel talking about the link between injuries and the compressed schedule and the rash of injuries. Now, the people out there will tell you the number of injuries are no higher than they've ever been. So it's not about that. But when you look at it sort of in its totality and percentage rate and the types of injuries, there is no doubt it is directly related to this type of schedule. The guys are literally playing every other night, and in some cases, back-to-back most teams, because there was a whole slew of cancellations first half of the season. These soft tissue injuries and these various injuries that we're seeing across the league are problematic. And ultimately, if you are a fan, what you would want is to see the best players on the floor in the games that matter the most, right? In the way we're currently set up, which is a 72 or a normal year, 82 game season. Now, we know the solution to this. The season's too long. Cut the games down. Now, we know they won't because of money, but there's so many smart people that exist in and around the NBA. Someone can figure this out. I was talking to someone online, and 65 was a number I thought was good for games. They were like, no, forget 65. There are 30 teams. How about 58 games? You play every team twice. And I was like, brilliant. Home and away. Every time you play each team twice, home and away, that will give so much time for rests, training, and coach is going to love this part, practice. So much time for all of those things, and you'll see so much of a better product. That's my soapbox.
I like it. I've always said 72, but it's because I'm biased towards playing young guys more. I think there should be a minutes restriction, almost like there's a pitch count restriction. Of course, in Major League Baseball, every team does their own, which is fine. They do it uniquely for the player. But just a quick side note on Durant, there's a reason why he played against the Wolves and not the Sixers, and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Forget about playing both games. There's no reason to show Philadelphia any more of Kevin Durant until the games matter.
Nothing.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's just, that's cat and mouse. That's good strategy. That's actually smart business strategy. All right, so there is Jamil Hill. I don't know if you saw this. Had a really poignant tweet. I thought that I thought helps define America today. Someone wrote, Jeff Vandermeer, I don't know, wrote that Florida House just passed an anti-trans bill regarding athletics in schools. This bill includes genital checks of children and will likely be signed into law, and then blah, blah, blah. And Jamil wrote, we are a nation of mass shooting, state-sanctioned violence, and genital checks of children. Well done, America. And she's right. And we're all on the same side of this. And it made me think that there is a division in the country, and this is the division. There is a large minority. Let me rephrase that again. Let me say it again. Restate that. There is a large minority of people who think that these are good things. And obviously they're not rooting for mass shootings, but they're okay with them as long as they don't pull the guns out of those schools, whatever. But the smaller majority of people don't agree with those things. That's our division. Pretty clear cut. And so those of us in the smaller majority need to be louder and louder, not just with our voting, but with our influence to continue to tamp down the minority and get rid of this fucking craziness that is defining America and shouldn't. It does, and it's fair that it does, but it shouldn't. We need to continue to speak out and speak up.
You know, when we care more about guns and property rights than we do about the rights of human beings and actual citizens, I mean, as a society, you have to look at that and be like, who and what even are we, right? Like that is not the hallmark of any enlightened or civilized age, and we're certainly not that. As everybody knows, LaMarcus Aldridge retired yesterday, and he had been dealing with heart issues for quite some time. It was interesting because when obviously covering Brooklyn Nets, when we talked to Steve, you know, he'd always said that, you know, LaMarcus, it was a non-COVID related injury. So most of us thought, oh, maybe he has like some other kind of respiratory thing, whatever, he'll be back. And I had honestly forgotten about his heart issues. And then obviously it came up that he, after that Laker game, he'd played with that irregular heartbeat and he was really feeling not great. The Nets said, no, you got to go to HSS and see what's going on here, and we'll go from there. And obviously he made the right decision, right? Because long-term health is much more important. What I found interesting was in his note that he wrote, he thanked the Brooklyn Nets, and this last sentence really stuck with me. Last but not least, I want to thank Brooklyn. You wanted me for me. In a game that's changing so much, you asked me to come and just do what I do, which is good to hear. I'm sorry it didn't get to last long, but I've definitely had a fun being part of this special group. And, you know, we always talk about this, coach, the human side of this. Like, yes, these are amazing athletes and they do all these great things. I mean, then LaMarcus, contrary to whatever people want to say now about the end of his career, I mean, this guy was a 6 or 7 time All-Star in the tough Western Conference, 4 or 5 time All-NBA. I mean, he's quite good at basketball, like quite good. And it is for him to say, you know, in a game that's changing, you guys just called me in and wanted me to be who I am. There's so much value that these guys place into that. And again, because we see them at the lofty heights, we don't think of them as being people in that way and experiencing those emotions. But that's what we all want, right? To be accepted for just who we are. That this is me. Like, I just want to be me. And the fact that, you know, Brooklyn, that's what they wanted him to do, I thought that was great. Kudos to LaMarcus on a great career. And more importantly, well wishes for a long and healthy life.
Which he can very well have. You can live with a regular heartbeat. There's medication that can get it regular. There's lots of things you can do. 15 years. I didn't realize he. I mean, I did when I read this the other day. Listen, I'm a lucky guy. I've seen a lot of great players starting when they were in high school. He was one of them. I went to Dallas for a world tournament for juniors under 18 or maybe under 19. I saw JJ Barea as a high school kid. He came from Puerto Rico. A few other players you wouldn't know on that same team who I know still that weren't quite NBA level but close. But he was there playing in Dallas, playing for whatever American team was there. And he was a high school senior. And I thought, oh, yeah. Like I saw Elvin Campbell and Dale Davis as freshmen and sophomores at Clemson. That was my first on-court training with future NBA players. And I knew they looked nothing like anyone I had coached. And I coached a lot of like all-American type players in high school. But seeing that dude, I'm like, okay, that's what a top 5 pick. I don't remember where he got drafted. Oh, he went number 2.
Yep.
I knew it was a top 5 looking pick. Amazing players. By the way, super fast. We think of LaMarcus as the turnaround jumper from the block, but I saw him at 18 years of age. Unbelievably fast, super skinny. And what I loved most about him, Jarod, was I always look for big men that are big and athletic and not afraid to get punched in the face, because basketball is a very physical game. Even in the NBA, it's still very, very physical. They call a lot of fouls. And that dude mixed it up. He just didn't care. He couldn't score down low, by the way. Also, ironically, unless he had a wide open dunk, he had no game. He was 18. But what an athlete and great size and length. Yeah, incredible player. And I don't know how many All-NBAs he made. We should probably look into it.
Yeah,
It's a big number.
Yeah.
Like it's a Hall of Fame level number. He's done it more than guys that made the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he got a hell of. Devin, can you check that for us? All-Stars and All-NBAs for I think 6 and 4 sound right, or 7 and 4, something like that.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like 2.
No, yeah. He's LaMarcus. I mean, we know that you know, once he gets that ball, that low block turns over that left shoulder. It's like that thing was cash money, automatic.
If he was 18 now, with the game he had, knowing what he developed, and he would have been an MVP player because he would have been shooting threes. So he'd have been money on the block, and he would have shoot threes. And there's like 11 dudes in the world that can do that decently, and he would have been elite at it. Right? He'd have been top 3, top 4. So, yeah, LaMarcus was sad. So I found it strange that Brooklyn was bringing all these old guys in to play all these games in such a short period of time. They have signed some young guys, and they have Claxton. The Johnson kid is talented.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had the second biggest rebound game in the G League bubble. I think he had 21 rebounds or 22 in a game. One player had one more than him. So I like him. I don't know if he's getting a chance to play much yet.
Yeah, he made all G League second team. So like they love his energy and his output there. Devin found it. 5 All-NBA teams. Thanks, Devin.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I always say this, and you know this, Coach. All-NBA is so much more indicative than All-Star. Like All-NBA is like, no, you are that dude if you're on an All-NBA team.
It's the difference between a colorless diamond and a pretty flawed diamond. Diamonds are diamonds, but the colorless ones are worth a lot more money. All-NBA is the best, the elite 15 in the league. All right, our topics to discuss. I don't even remember what some of these are. Oh, I want to do this fun game with you. Did you see this? Where you get to pick a player that you wish didn't get injury-free career. Who would you choose? I can go first if you want, if you need to think about it.
In any sport? Oh, man.
Oh, no, I was thinking basketball, but
okay. Just basketball.
Sure. Okay. Of course you could pick any sport you want. Yeah, I think Adane might have picked Bo Jackson,
Oh my God.
which would have been incredible. Yeah.
There are so many, but I'll stick to the NBA. And even in the NBA, there's so many. For me, because, my basketball love language are tall guys who can handle and shoot, right? That's my, so.
You're going to say T-Mac?
No. Anthony Hardaway. Penny.
Oh, Penny. I love that.
I just 6'7", handle, shoot the three, get to the rack. Oh my God. He was, and in those years that he played, when he was especially in Orlando, he was that dude. You're like, oh man, this guy can hoop. Penny's the guy for me.
All right. So before I tell you mine, I got a quick Penny story too. So my 1990, I was getting married a few weeks later, and I was running a gym. I was kind of in charge of a gym hosting the National AAU Championships. And Coach Kruger was recruiting one of my players that year, and he and I were watching games together. Lon Kruger just retired. He was just coming up to be head coach of Florida. And back-to-back games, we had Penny Hardaway's team from Memphis, and then Chris Webber's team. So how about that? Right? And just in a Northeast High School gym, I think it was, it's in St. Pete. Back-to-back game, I saw these two guys as high school. Again, I've been around. I've seen a lot of talent. I saw Derek Coleman play when he was 18 also. And Penny was incredible. And then, of course, he goes for Orlando. That was my local team. I lived 9 minutes away or whatever, 2 miles away. Huge Penny fan. It's a great call. Years later, 7, 8 years ago, I had lunch with him in Memphis. What a bright and refreshing. Yeah, he would have been, he was one of the best players in the world. He might have ended up being the best player in the world. That was his trajectory. Yeah, special. Someone, I think Caleb wrote Sean Livingston, very similar. Mm-hmm. Penny and Sean Livingston had a lot of games together because they could be game managers, or they could score 45 and just kill you themselves. That isn't easy to do, right? Yeah, he was amazing. My pick is more selfish. My pick is Yao Ming. Because Daryl Morey told me years later, I may have said this in the show once before, the Rockets traded for Kevin Martin because their analytics showed that Yao Ming was the single best player in the league offensively when the team was in the bonus. And Kevin Martin was a foul magnet, wasn't just for himself. So every time Kevin would get fouled, it was one foul towards that bonus. And so in Daryl's mind, it was, we're gonna have Kevin Martin, one of the best scorers in the world, and Yao Ming becomes the best player in the league offensively. When our team's in bonus, it's a marriage made in heaven. I think they played a half of 2 games together.
Yeah.
I think Yao Ming barely played games 1 and 2 and then retired from there. I would have loved to see that selfishly, but T-Mac too was just another Florida guy.
That's a good one. And the good point you mentioned, Coach, about the bonus, right? Having 2 guys who can get the other team get you into the bonus early, that's death, right? Because every time we're going to the free throw line and we're going to kill it 80% for the free throw line.
That's why Yao was so good. Yao was that rare. Back then, always big men who make free throws are pretty rare. Their hands are huge. I think that's what the problem is anything. And Yao was a great free throw shooter. So yeah, he was incredible. I think that what was my topic to discuss? Let me look right now. I pop into these things.
We can do championship bus if you want.
I want to talk about this one thing about the virus. So Judy, if you want to click on that, the first topic to discuss, Jarod, I didn't know this till I saw this morning. So the Vancouver Canucks, they may have to forfeit from the season. They've got that variant running around, and they're still sick. And so what I wanted to bring up this quickly, if there's a way to derail the NBA playoffs, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
What if you said you can't have a team play? That changes everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to vaccinate like crazy and be smart, because the NHL is, they're having to schedule around an entire team, not on protocol. Mm-hmm. They can't play.
Right.
That's a worry to me when the league is in too many games, of course, but we should be able to get a really good playoffs with fans. Yeah. Unless people don't vaccinate, and then we have one of these things happen.
You hit the nail on the head, and this is our weekly ply for it. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you have a free pass at Disneyland and you just go nuts and go crazy out there. Especially with the playoffs. This isn't the regular season when you can schedule around. If a team is variant or whatever, and they're sick for a week, playoffs done, because that impacts the entire integrity of the playoffs, right?
That's exactly right. It impacts what you said is perfect. It impacts the integrity, because now a team is getting 10 days or 14 days of rest. It's an enormous advantage in the postseason. And it happened in the ACC tournament. Virginia couldn't play after winning a game. They couldn't play Georgia Tech. There was a few other conference tournaments. And a team got an extra night of rest, which is super valuable when other teams are playing back to back to back. So yeah, it would be a nightmare. Not to mention these players getting sick.
Yeah,
doesn't make anyone happy either.
Keep passed up people and do what's necessary. So, Coach, you do this thing called the NBA Championship Bus, and it's we don't know who the final person is going to be at the last stop, but only certain teams are allowed on the bus, right? And there's seats. You either sit up front, middle, whatever. Back and through the last 2 weeks, I feel like seats have shuffled a little bit in terms of who's up front, who's moved back.
Tell me your thoughts. Let me hear what you say.
So Denver was a team that I thought was up in the front part of the bus and legit could be there when it gets to NBA Finals destination, right? They had that opportunity. With Jamal Murray being hurt now, that severely impacts that. And it's not because you can't make up the scoring. Michael Porter Jr. loves to score, right? You can find people to make up Aaron Gordon, to make up points. It ain't about that. To me, it's the institutional knowledge that Jokic and Murray have together, right? That late game pick and roll, how they know each other, and all those different little things that you don't quite have with Porter, you don't quite have with Morris, you don't quite have with Aaron Gordon. And we saw what he did in the bubble last year, right? I mean, he is that incredible, because look, it still matters in the playoffs, especially later you go. How many guys do you have can create and make incredible shots? That matters in the postseason. Murray was one of those dudes. Well, now you lose that. So that's going to hurt them a bit, because I kind of like them. If the seedings had held, it would have been them and the Lakers in the first round. And yes, AD is going to be coming back soon, but I don't know what their health is going to look like. That would have been maybe a more tougher series for the Lakers than they would have wanted in round one. Now without Murray, might be a little easier.
It would have been LeBron's toughest first round matchup ever. Yeah, that it's not. If everything said is right, but I would add, you have to replace him with somebody, right? And Michael Porter Jr. was already playing,
right?
So are you going to not play? You'll play one less player. There's an aggregate impact that way. And whoever you're going to play to replace Jamal Murray, they're not going to be as good as Jamal Murray. If they were, they would have already been playing above Jamal Murray. Right. So you just can't replace a guy like that. It's terrible. Honestly, I try to avoid watching the video of those injuries. Yeah. When my son broke his ankle, I mean, I really do have PTSD. Just now, when we watched it, it really, like, my body went into shock a little bit. I had not seen it because it was the single worst moment of my life, seeing my son. I mean, the second my son broke his ankle, I said to my wife, you can hear it on camera because she was filming the game. I said, he fractured his ankle. He got taken out. I saw it. It was just a guess on my part, but I've never seen my son in pain like that. And that night where he was so worried about taking painkillers was, my wife would tell you, the single worst night of our lives. She was just seeing our son in that kind of pain. And I had to just sit next to him in his bed because he didn't want to take any painkillers, and he freaking had a broken ankle. It's horrible seeing Jamal Murray react that way. And he's not even thinking about just the pain. Right. He's also thinking about what's coming up. Sure. And I do think Denver can win a game or two in any series because they're amazing.
And they have Jokic.
And they have the best player in the league. I just said this on a show last night. It's exactly right. When you have the best player on the court on your team, you can beat anyone for a game or even 2 games. But to win 4 and 7 in the West, it's too much talent. In the East, they might still be able to win the East, to be honest. Maybe not. See how well Brooklyn or Philadelphia, whatever plays, but not in the West. Yeah, there's too good. So, all right. So that's what you say about Denver. Who else has kind of changed your perception a little bit?
So I love this bus analogy. It's my favorite. Remember when you were a kid and you go on field trips and the bus would have pockets of certain kids and certain parts of the bus would be super noisy. The teacher gets back there and is like, "You guys are too loud." You know who's been in the quiet section of the bus, but just right up the Clippers, man. Not a whole lot going on in their section of the bus. Those those kids who are reading a book or whatever while everybody else is talking. It's like, what are they doing over there, those Clippers? They're just kind of keeping quiet. And Paul George is playing really well. Look, they still have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I mean, as you said, it's about who's got the best guys on the floor. And in certain series, I mean, those two guys will be better than your two best guys, right? And they're so good, and they're defending, and they're shooting threes, and we love Terrence Mann. They got Rondo's kind of organized them a little bit offensively, hey man, and they definitely learned something from last year, right? That 3-1 getting their ass kicked and being embarrassed like that sat with them. And they know what people are saying. They're here, and they're like, all right. And these are prideful guys, all competitive. The Clippers can sneakily get to a conference finals, and people be like, oh, look, the Clippers are here. Now, I know, the common joke, Clippers are going to clip. I know. Happens all the time. But listen, I like them. They're quiet in their section on the bus. Right? Up towards the front, no one's paying attention to them.
I am. Tom Haberstroh is. We talked about them on Monday, Jarod. You're exactly right. They are. I mean, I love the Lakers because they're finding ways to play defense, and their guys are scoring, and they're missing the best duo on the planet. Well, Harden Durant might be that. That's how good those two are. But you know what I mean. But the Jazz, I think, are terrific. The Clippers are moving towards being my favorites right now. Because I don't trust Jordan Clarkson. It's really I love the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell, we're going to talk about him later. I love the Jazz. I love what they're doing as a franchise, but they still need Jordan Clarkson to be Jordan Clarkson. I just don't trust him in the playoffs. I trust playoff Rondo, who's doing really well. He's almost had regular season Rondo. What's going on? He's playing really well for them. He hasn't played a ton of minutes, but he's plus 71 of those minutes. Terrence Mann is shooting 40+% from three, brings him energy, plays at the rim. Paul George, like you said, is playing great. I think they're right there. I definitely think they're one of the best teams. But you're not done. You've got more.
Oh, I got lots more.
Come on. I want to hear some more. Because it's a very, very packed bus right now.
Bus is packed. Listen, we're going to stay in the West with this last team. We already talked about Utah. I have the same concern you do. If you need Jordan Clarkson to continue to be how good are you. And look, he can do it. We've just never seen it. So when it happens, okay, he can do it. Nobody is talking about Phoenix either because for similar reasons, right? I trust Chris Paul. And even though he hasn't been in the playoffs, I trust Devin Booker and Jay Crowder because he's also has playoff experience. Your concerns are Bridges, Ayton, they're playing well. But are you going to play well in the postseason? I don't know. And then when let's say Ayton gets in foul trouble against Denver, and now you got to put Sarge in the game. Well, now you're cooked, right? Because it limits you a bit what you can do there. So, but I like Phoenix a lot. They have been top 7 in both offense and defense. They're excellent and right behind the Jazz in net rating. Love what they're doing. And with their pace and with Chris Paul in the postseason, when shit's going haywire and Chris is like, calm down.
Settle down now.
Let's get into our set. Let's get right. And that is very valuable for young guys who are going to be like, oh shit. No. We got it. Calm down.
Here's how I would describe what you're saying with Phoenix. If the LAs, let's say, are really healthy, it's probably likely they're going to beat Phoenix in a playoff series. That's a big if. And so the point I think you're making is, if they're not fully healthy, they're not so just going to win because of the Lakers or the Clippers and LeBron and AD. No, Phoenix is going to beat them unless they're at full strength.
Right.
And that's not the case. I mean, I think plenty of teams in the playoffs in the East wouldn't beat those teams if they were at full strength, but the Phoenix Suns can. They can do it in the aggregate. They can do it collectively. Also, another team out there, probably because they're in the East. So first of all, it was Henry Abbott's idea years ago. Well, I guess 2 years ago about this whole bus. So starting the season, there's not 30 teams on the bus, let's be fair, right? So that was his point really, is let's just track who was still on the bus after trades, injuries, and buyouts, right? Denver is going to be getting off to the next stop. The next time I do this article, we'll have Denver exiting, right? Because they're just not going to win a championship without Jamal Murray. But you know who's still on the bus for me is Boston. Boston. They are playing really well.
Yes.
And if we can agree that you need to have, I getting your own shot, people talk about that. Listen, the harsh reality is you need to score points. and it helps to have really great scores. That's why I think the Jazz with Donovan Mitchell are very, very special. And then they have the other guy to help stop it in Rudy. Great, great combination. Donovan scoring 30 a game in the last 10 games, and Rudy Gobert is having a runaway defensive player of the year, in my opinion. Ben Simmons may win it, but Rudy Gobert is the best defensive player in the league. But Jason Tatum is coming, and Jaylen Brown has been here for a while. So if all that's left is Kemba Walker, who I just adore as a player, I'm not a big Connecticut fan. I'm a fan of great people that are great players. I love that dude. If he can find his game, which he's not really all season, Robert Williams is a good guy in the middle.
Time Lord.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they call it? What?
Time Lord.
Why? I love that.
His rookie year.
So good. It's so good at the nickname, isn't it?
Yes. And Devin will correct me if I'm wrong on the story, but like he was like late to practice or something, or like didn't show up and was like, I didn't know what time we're supposed to be somewhere. And it's like, dude, press conference. It's like, come on, dog. Like
Time Lord. That is classic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We should one day have a discussion of the best nicknames of all time, but I will put that on that list. He's not the player that George Gervin, the Iceman, is, but that's really good. But I just think Boston's kind of found a way to win games now. Grant Williams is a young PJ Tucker. He's and he's playing every game now. He's playing well. Boston, and because the East is open, in other words, the West is not open.
Yeah.
You're not cruising through that group of landmines. Forget about it. The East is open. I'm not yet convinced any of those teams, if Brooklyn play defense, that if they're winning it. But they don't play defense yet. And I think Milwaukee also is very, very good. Mm-hmm. But if they falter somehow, I think Boston can be last year's Miami. Yeah,
look, I mean, Jaylen Brown was so good last night against the Lakers. And you know, it's funny, like with some of my friends, I always joke when Boston was coming up, I was like, guys, even though it's not true, but I would just say it. I'm like, Jaylen Brown's better than Jason Tatum anyway. Like, so that was always my thing. I'm like, if you had to pick sides, I'm on team Jaylen Brown. Of course, whatever, tongue in cheek, but Jaylen Brown is good, like really good. He can guard, we know that, shoot the three, get to the rim, and Tatum, he's felt the lasting effects of COVID and talking about, right?
Exactly right.
Having to use an inhaler and things that he never had before.
He's still using the inhaler.
Right. And if he's starting to, because he said to Rachel the other day, Rachel Nichols, I'm almost there. I'm about 99%. Listen, and they have institutional knowledge, right? I always use that phrase, but they have been through the wars in the playoffs. Let's put it this way. If they're on the road, whatever, they're not going to be afraid going in any gym. We've been to the conference finals. As rookies, they went game 7 with LeBron James.
Right.
They're fine. They're like, you know.
This is what bothers me. I don't want to get into it, but I'll just say this. When ESPN did a top 25 under 25, and those guys weren't both top 5, like, come on.
Crazy.
They made the conference finals as children almost. A lot of guys on that list aren't ever going to get there. And they've been there too. They've been 2 in the last 3 years. It's pretty good. Yeah. And they're two-way players.
I like what you're saying about Boston. It will be interesting to see. Also, I'll put it like this: any of those top 3 seeds, if they got Boston in round 1, they're gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be annoying, right? They may not be like sweating it, but they'll be like, great. Now we know we gotta work hard to get out of this first round, unless we had a worse team. Those other
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Those other 3 teams at the top, I'm gonna kind of lump them all together.
Yeah.
Everyone, those are the ones people are talking about, and that's Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. And those are the likely 3 teams. One of them are to come out of conference. Yeah. That top seed, as I've mentioned so many times in the past, is key because you'd only have to play one of them in the conference finals versus 2. And it doesn't mean that whoever wins it couldn't beat 2 or 3. Of course they could. They're super talented. It's just really difficult. And it's a tax. And Coach, you always talk about that. If you have a reservoir of energy, right? It doesn't, when it's tapped, it's tapped. Yeah. So now, if you've got to go 6 or 7 games in the conference semis and then go another 6 or 7 in the conference finals, that's putting your fuel tank real low at the bottom by the time you get to the conference finals. Same, of course, for whoever comes out of the West, right? And then it becomes a war of attrition at that point. It's like, okay, who's got 8 guys that can stand up straight and not fall down in the middle of July, right? And that's generally where we're at. For Brooklyn, to me, and we'll talk about them more later, maybe, it's all about health. if those guys are healthy and the team is obviously that's their focus. You can see it. They're like, look, 1 seed will be nice, but we got to make sure our guys can play their normal minutes, 35 plus, because we ain't winning a title if any one of them are missing.
Right.
It's not happening. So we have to have all 3 healthy. Milwaukee's kind of like that Clippers role to me, flying under the radar. But like, oh, we're over you because you've been dominant in the regular season and you suck in the playoffs. And then Philly, they're very clear about we want the 1 seed. We want to be at home because we're so good there. Joel Embiid's like, listen, I know Jokic is good. I'm the MVP. Ben Simmons is like, I'm TPOY. I love what Philly can do defensively. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is I know what Joel's going to do offensively. Tobias Harris, consistency, maybe. And then, hey, Ben Simmons is still a problem in that way where he ain't going to shoot. I don't got to worry about him. Yeah. So that's what worries me.
It's a fair concern. Philly's offense is a fair concern. I favor Milwaukee in the East, pretty significantly so, with Brooklyn being the wild card. The energy thing is something I think you'll like the story. It's a finite product. Game in, game out, it's finite. And then over the course of a season, like Harden has run out of energy at the end of season before. He won't this year, but you remember those years where he just died in the playoffs when he was destroying the league. Many years ago, you remember Tyrese Thomas.
Yep.
Okay, so he was a young man that was helping a lot. And I was at their practice facility one day, like the off season, before the season started. And Tyrese was just being a fool, just doing stupid things. They're playing 5-on-5, just running his mouth and doing dumb stuff. Very, very, very bright young man, but very emotional. And Dar Foreman and Paxson were down talking to me, and they basically just said, like, you know, what can we do about this? He was just acting foolish. And so at the end of the workout, Tyrese came over to me, and I had a full bottle of water, just a water bottle. I said, Tyrese, just understand this. This bottle represents your energy reserves for 1 game. Okay, it's full. You come into a game with full of energy. Every time you dunk, pour a little out. I'm pouring it right on the practice court in the Berto Center. Every time you dunk and race the floor, I keep pouring a little bit out. And I said, now there's a quarter left. Great, because the game goes overtime. It's a tight 4th quarter game. You'll be fine. I said, only you didn't just run and dunk and block shots, whatever. You yelled at the referee, I forced him out. You screamed at a teammate, I forced him out. You screamed at Bruno Negro, I forced him out. And I said, now look, it's dry and there's 6 minutes to go in the game. What do you have left? You're wasting all this energy. And so this is the problem with the West in general, is it's not wasting energy. You need the energy to beat all these teams, which is why Phoenix has a shot. Because we saw what happened to Jamal Murray. We see injuries are happening right and left. It's not going to get suddenly mitigated in the postseason when the game's so fast and furious at the end of all of this going on, right? So it's a crapshoot. It's a variable that we can't predict. We don't know. I want you to talk about Steph Curry, and I want to lead in with this. I was trying to think this morning, like who under 6'6" has carried their teams in the last decade. I thought of 2 names. I thought of Steph and Dwayne.
Yeah.
Is there, because there's nobody else. That's how hard it is to not be a LeBron, a Paul George, a Kawhi Leonard, guys that size, Kevin Durant, Steph and Dwayne. Did it very differently, right?
Yeah.
But talk to me about what you want to say about Steph.
Prior to that, I'm thinking Zeke, like originalized.
Yeah, way back, sure. Yeah. But I mean, the last 15 years.
It's hard, man.
It's still a small list.
Yes, because as you always say, there's a tax you have to pay when you're that size. It's just too much. You know what's so interesting? So, and I follow a lot of people on Warriors Twitter, and there's always, and fans are fans, and so they do what they do. The Warrior fan base is so protective of Steph, like, and understandably so, right? When you've been a shitty franchise for a million years, and this supernova comes on, it's like, he's ours, and it's like homegrown, the whole nine, makes total sense. You know, this idea that every week it's like his legacy's being questioned because the Warriors aren't good and this and that. And it's like, it ties back to what you talked about, Coach. Winning an NBA, and the video that we had, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Appreciate the Final Four.
Yeah.
NBA championship is a crapshoot. I know we like to think it's preordained ahead of time. I promise you it's not. Our brains think that it is, but it isn't, okay? And it's always flipped on these little minute details. The Kevin Durant Warriors, remember, first year he got there, down 3-2 to the Rockets. Chris Paul doesn't tear his hamstring, they lose that series. And guess what? The whole slate of the NBA looks completely different than it looks right now.
Well, hold on, Jarod. Don't forget, you're right. Kawhi doesn't land on Zaza's sneaker. I thought that series was going 7. I predicted 7, I want to say, before game 1. They were destroying the Warriors in game 1 with Kawhi, right? He steps on Zaza's sneaker, not an accident, in my opinion. And then they sweep him from there. So go on. I didn't mean to interrupt that.
No.
That's how flimsy this all can be.
That is the point that you make. The year the Warriors won their first title. And again, it's not discounting it. It's you need to be good enough so that luck matters, because luck matters, right? The Orlando Magic can have all the luck in the world. They're still the Orlando Magic, right? So they are who they are. But when the Warriors won their first title, they played every team in the Western Conference without their starting point guard, and they didn't play the Oklahoma City Thunder that year because Durant was hurt and missed the entire season.
Right, that's right.
Why does that matter? OKC took them to 7 games the second year, and not having your star point guard matters, right? Yes, the Warriors were good, but you need a little bit of good fortune to help you. So what I'm saying is this team has won 3 championships, been to 5 straight finals. This dude legacy is set. Stop with this every week like, they're not making the playoffs. It does not matter. The rarefied air they were living in, that's not commonplace. You don't go to conference finals and championships every season. That isn't the regular NBA. Look around. Look at teams that just struggle to even make the playoffs. Going to 3 straight, winning 3 titles, being a back-to-back MVP, one-time unanimous. Guys, all good. Enough. Let's stop the insanity and stop litigating game by game. Oh, he scored 50 points, but the Warriors still suck. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. So just real quickly. So LeBron, I think it's 8 straight finals, correct? Not 9.
Not 9? 8 or 9.
Well, 4 for Miami.
Yeah.
4 for Cleveland.
Oh, yes. And the year off in LA, and then, yeah. Okay.
Right. So, yeah, he's been to 10 finals, right? But 8 in a row. The Warriors, who were just this dynastic team, did 5. This guy did 8 straight.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. That's the problem, Coach. LeBron, Durant, Steph, and these guys have us all convinced that, you just go there no, you do not go every year. That's not how this game works. You don't. You don't. Special people do. But
yeah. I like that you and I didn't play, at the level these guys do, but you get it. You really get how rare all of this is, how special it is. I'll tell you something I like to do. I like to watch national events, or international events, where the national team of a country, like I can watch Paraguay play France in women's soccer. I don't watch the whole game. I like watching the starting lineups, the warm-ups, and the anthems that they play when the girls are standing or the guys are standing. I tend to get kind of emotional because I think to myself, wherever they're from, especially if it's the sport of choice of the country, right? I don't do this for ping pong players. Nothing is ping pong, but when you are on the national team of a sport in your country where it's the most popular sport, I just like to imagine the dreams they had. I'm in the business of trying to make dreams come true for players, and so for me, it's part of kind of feeding my soul a little bit of what it must mean. I have been on the receiving end of a text message from a player who carried his flag in the Olympics. He didn't just make the national team. This was a Chinese player, by the way, and it was basketball. So think about how big basketball is in China. He texted me a picture of him holding the flag in London, and I cried. Like I actually gave him the dream of, dude, if you guys win the Asian Championships, you're going to carry your nation's flag. Because unlike in America and China, they promote their most popular athlete. We tend to pick, I actually like that about America. We tend to do underdogs, and we did Michael Phelps, but that was an honorific thing. He was the most decorated. So normally we pick, the runner from Kenya who emigrated to Minnesota or whatever. I love that about our country, to make that. So it's the same thing when you are the absolute elite of elite of elite, and you're getting to multiple finals as the best player on your team. It's Mozart, it's Stevie Wonder, it's as rare as you'll ever find. And as somebody who's a coach, I don't forget that. That Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time, and he's never been to a finals. And there's nothing shocking. Right, one conference final, no NBA finals. Charles Barkley is extraordinary. Charles Barkley was the best player on the Dream Team
Yeah.
and never won a championship, right? Right. So I like to I take the time to appreciate what these guys are doing. And in Steph's case, I mean, it's impossible to predict what he's done. And exciting to think about what they might do if they make a trade in the offseason. If Clay, I mean, I don't know what happens if Clay can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, what do they have to do? I don't know what they do. I guess Clay can retire, and does the money come off the books a little bit? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's a while because that deal just started because that's his extension.
Right. Right.
Given how well Durant came back, I think it's good prognosis for him. Yeah. And the one thing you'll never lose is your ability to shoot, right? So they'll still find ways for that to be valuable. What I think though, Coach, is because it's not just is it because Steph and the Warriors are like bad? It's the rest of the league is also going to get good at the same time, and younger guys are going to get better, right? Luka's now going to be at that stage, 24? I don't know how old he is. John Morant, Triple J are going to come up. Zion, like it's just the league's going to get younger and better, and then it's like so you may not be able to just stay at that top level, and there's no one stays at the mountaintop forever. It's impossible. You just can't. Time will eventually beat you down. Like it's just how it goes.
Who would you rather see as a partner, Luka and Zion, or Ja and Zion? Because I think they're going to partner one of the two. They're the next generation. Those dudes right there.
Well, I'm going to say Luka and Zion because I'm very partial to my guy Triple J over here.
Yeah, me too. I love him too.
I'm going to say Luka and Zion because that would be a nightmare. Oh my God.
Offensively anyway. Yeah. Jarod Jackson Jr. I was the guy who thought, tell me if I'm wrong, wasn't he in the same class as Luka?
Yeah, we both said the same thing. I said
prospect. Yes. Prospect. Yes. We probably were wrong, but I don't care. Luka is Stevie Wonder, Mozart. I mean, like Luka's that guy, but Jackson can be just an incredible player.
Because of what he can do defensively, the profile he can fit defensively.
I think so.
As you say so well, Tim Duncan 2.0.
That's what I think, yeah. But John Morant, just on that video, I didn't want to go on and on, but as John Morant did everything right on that video. Luka made a low percentage shot. For even Luka, it's not the high percentage shot. So that's a win. If you're playing blackjack, which I mean defense is, that's a win long term for Ja. If he can make Luka keep doing that, he's not gonna make a bunch of them. But Ja reacting the way he did at such a young age, like I'm telling you, a lot of 20-year-olds would puff up.
Oh yeah,
they go lucky. No. Ja knows that cat is incredible, and I just thought they showed a maturity, an emotional maturity about that. I think Morant is a spectacularly special player.
You mentioned something I would have mentioned that no one could have predicted Curry changing the game. These young guys coming along. I want to mention something today, and I mentioned it before, but I think it's worth bringing it up because today is his birthday. 6-time NBA champion, 6-time MVP, NBA's all-time leading scorer, 2-time Finals MVP, 15-time All-NBA, 19-time All-Star. Happy birthday to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And, I always joke on Twitter, for those of you kids that think basketball was invented in 2015, this guy right here, pretty good. It's about changing the game. They stopped dunking him because it was unfair because he was too good, right? Like, think about that. Like, this guy, we gotta stop. No dunking allowed. You're too good.
He's also, there's a long line of brilliant NBA players. He's near the top, if not at the top. Thoughtful, sober, well-raised. His parents, he credits them so much for the impact they had on him. And you're talking about, I grew up a Laker fan. So Magic was my favorite player, but I called him Cap. I didn't call him Kareem. Magic called him Cap. I called him Cap. Right? Like that's if you talk to my brothers who also were Laker fans because I was the oldest of three, Cap was our guy. Yeah. Watching it, my son is coming home in 2 weekends for about 2 weeks, and I've got a couple of documentaries queued up. And we're gonna watch the Kareem one. I think it's
Minority of One. It's so good.
So good. Yeah.
So good.
I'm gonna make him read Giant Steps too, which is the first book that he wrote. It was incredible. He's done a few, but that was the first. So yeah, we got a big weekend of games going on. Be safe, my man.
You do. Thank you, Coach. Guys, you know what to do. Be safe this weekend. Make sure you're masked up. And as always, make sure you check out everything we're doing on True Hoop Mondays with Coach and Tom Haberstraw. Have a good weekend, everybody.